Lillahi ta'ala. The author says, وقد نص الإمام المحدث الحافظ المفسر عبد الرحمن بن الجوزي الحنبلي على نفي التحيز في المكان والاتصال والانفصال والاجتماع والافتراق عن الله تعالى. The Imam and the Hadith scholar and the Hadith headmaster and the Quran interpreter Abdul Rahman Ibnul-Jawzi, the Hambali, documented the negation of containment in place and the negation of connection and disconnection and meeting and separating from Allah, negating all of that from Allah Ta'ala. So this is Hambali documentation. فقال في كتابه دفع شبه التشبيه. So he said in his book دفع شبه التشبيه, which means repelling the fallacies of God comparing. يحكي قول المجسم الحنبلي ابن زاغوني. He said, in citing what the Hambali bodifier of God named Ibn Zaghuni said. قال, he said, يعني ابن الزاغوني المجسم, meaning Ibn Zaghuni, the bodifier of God. وقد ثبت أن الأماكن ليست في ذاته. It is confirmed that places are not within the self of God. ولا ذاته فيها, nor is his self in them. فثبت انفصاله عنها. So it is confirmed that he is separated from them. So this is a long time before Wahhabis. So some Wahhabi recently sent me a message. He wanted to respond to something that I said. He wants to, in his response, cite older people before the emergence of the Wahhabis. Like this one, he didn't cite this one, but meaning people who came long time before. And his point is to say, this one's not a Wahhabi, and look what he says. So the fact of the matter is that there are mushabbiha in the nation of Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They popped up from time to time. Amongst them is Ibn Taymiyyah. Amongst them is this one here, Ibn Zaghuni. And there were before those some, and after them some. So just because he didn't appear at the time of Wahhabi doesn't mean he's not a bodifier of God. And it doesn't mean that bodifying God is valid because people did it before the Wahhabis appeared. Jawzi, who existed a long time before Wahhabis, is refuting this corporealist, this mushabbih, who existed a long time before Wahhabis, and he believes like them. Because Wahhabis are just mushabbiha. They are mushabbiha like other mushabbiha who existed before them. They believe like people before them believed in some things, and they have beliefs that are unique to them also, like issue of bid'ah. The issue of bid'ah wasn't something from the old groups. But the issue of saying God is in a place is, and the issue of saying he's not inside the universe, so he must be over it, that's not special to Wahhabis. They believe that, and others before them believed that. So he said, وَقَدْ ثَبَتَ أَنَّ الْأَمَاكِنَ لَيْسَتْ فِي ذَاتِهِ. It is confirmed that places are not within God's self. وَلَا ذَاتُهُ فِيهَا, nor is his self in the places. فَثَبَتَ انْفِصَالُهُ عَنْهَا. It is therefore confirmed that he is separate from the places. وَلَا بُدَّ مِنْ شَيْءٍ يَحْصُلُ بِهِ الْفَصْلُ. And there is no escape from something by which this separation would occur. Right there, he's saying God needs something. That's Wahhabi belief. Without them saying God needs something, they don't realize the implications of their beliefs. In order for him to be above this creation by separation, there needs to be a separation. So Ibn Zaghuni said, وَلَا بُدَّ مِنْ شَيْءٍ يَحْصُلُ بِهِ الْفَصْلُ. There is no escape from. Yani, it is a condition that there exists. It is a condition so that God would be separated from the creation, that there would be something by which this separation would occur. That's what he's saying. He continues, فَلَمَّا قَالْ ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى عَلِمْنَا اخْتِصَاصَهُ بِتِلْكَ الْجِهَةِ. He argues, so when God said, ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى, which in his mind means, then he rose. He says, then we knew he was particularly in this direction. When he said ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى, we knew that he was in particular in that direction. قال ابن Zaghuni. Ibn Zaghuni said, وَلَا بُدَّ أَنْ يَكُونَ لِذَاتِهِ نِهَايَةٌ وَغَايَةٌ يَعْلَمُهَا. And it is a condition that his self has an end and an extent that he knows. That's Wahhabi belief. They say he has a limit that he knows. The same ones who will tell you, we don't say about God except what he said about himself. They'll tell you he has a limit that he knows, and he never said that about himself. So Ibnul-Jawzi says, قلت, I say, هذا رجل لا يدري ما يقول. This is a man who doesn't know what he's saying, which is clear for us. لأنه إذا قدر غاية وفصلا بين الخالق والمخلوق. Because if he estimates that there is an extent and a separation between the creator and the creation, فَقَدْ حَدَّدَ, then he has gave God a limit. وَأَقَرَّ بِأَنَّهُ جِسْمٌ, and he has confessed to God being a body. وَهُوَ يَقُولُ فِي كِتَابِهِ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ بِجَوْهَرٍ. Although this man says in one of his books that God is not a jawhar. So we know the word jawhar has slight versatility in its usage. Jawhar could mean particle, or jawhar could mean some entity that fills a space. And jawhar might be used to refer to gems and jewels. So I'm just reminding you that, so you're not stuck only on the meaning of particles. When he says in one of his books that Allah is not a jawhar. It's possible that this man has something in his mind from the word jawhar. It's not exactly what we have in mind. He says in his book, this Ibnul-Zaghuni, he says in his book that innahu laysa bi jawhar, he's not particle. He's not a jawhar. لأن الجوهر ما تحيز, because a jawhar is something that's contained. That's what he says in one of his books. ثم يثبت له مكانا يتحيز فيه, and then turns around and confirms a place for him in which he's contained. قلت, Ibnul-Jawzi says, I say, وَهَذَا كَلَامُ جَهْلٍ مِنْ قَائِلِهِ. This is talk of ignorance from its speaker. وَتَشْبِيهٌ مَحْضٌ, and it's pure resembling or comparing the creator to the creation. It's unadulterated tashbih. فما عرف هذا الشيخ ما يجب للخالق وما يستحيل عليه. So this Shaykh, he might mean this religious teacher, or he might mean this old man. He does not know what is necessary for the creator and what is impossible for the creator, like having a body or having a partner. فإن وجوده تعالى ليس كوجود الجواهر والأجسام. For indeed, God's existence is not like the existence of atoms and bodies. التي لا بد لها من حيز, those things that must have some containment. والتحت والفوق إنما يكون فيما يقابل ويحاذى, and below and above is only applicable to something that can be counterposition and parallel. Counterposition means across from. وَمِنْ ضَرُورَةِ الْمُحَاذِي أَنْ يَكُونَ أَكْبَرَ مِنَ الْمُحَاذَى أَوْ أَصْغَرَ أَوْ مِثْلَهُ. And one of the necessities, one of the necessary things about something that's parallel to another thing is that it's bigger than what it's parallel to, or smaller than it, or the same size as it. Any one of those three. If one thing is parallel to another, then it's any one of these three. Either bigger than what it's parallel to, or smaller than it, or the same size as it. وَأَنَّ هَذَا وَمِثْلَهُ إِنَّمَا يَكُونُ فِي الْأَجْسَامِ. And that this, being parallel, and the likes of that would only be in bodies. وَكُلُّ مَا يُحَاذِي الْأَجْسَامَ يَجُوزُ أَنْ يَمَسَّهَا. And everything that's parallel to a body could possibly actually touch that body. وَمَا جَازَ عَلَيْهِ مُمَاسَّةً الأجسام ومباينتها, and anything that could possibly touch a body or be distinct from a body, separated from it, فهو حادث, then it is itself an event. إذ قد ثبت أن الدليل على حدوث الجواهر قبولها للمباينة والمماسة, because it's confirmed that the very evidence that atoms are created is that they accept to be separate from other things and to be in touch with them. فَإِنْ أَجَازُوا هَذَا عَلَيْهِ, so if they deem this valid for God, قَالُوا بِجَوَازِ حُدُوثِهِ, then they have deemed God's createdness possible and valid. Then they have deemed it possible and valid that God himself is created. وَإِن مَنَعُوا جَوَازَ هَذَا عَلَيْهِ, and if they deny the possibility of this for God, if they deny the possibility of createdness for God, لم يبق لنا طريق لإثبات حدث الجواهر, then we wouldn't have any way left to prove that atoms are created. So do you see what he did there? He said the proof that atoms are created is that they can touch and be separated. They can come in touch with each other and they can depart each other. So anyone who says that God can come in touch with something or depart it is saying that he's created, because this is the way we know that atoms are created. And if someone believes that God can come in touch with something or be separate from it, that he can be parallel to something in counterposition to it, but that he's not created, then we wouldn't have any way to prove that atoms are created, because that's the case of atoms. And that's what proves that they're created. وَمَتَى قَدَّرْنَا مُسْتَغْنِيًا عَنِ الْمَحَلِّ وَالْحَيِّزِ وَمُحْتَاجًا إِلَى الْحَيِّزِ. So whenever we confirm or estimate that there's someone who doesn't need any spot to be in, and he doesn't need any containment, and also that there is someone who needs containment, ثم قلنا إما أن يكونا متجاورين أو متباينين كان ذلك محالا. But then we say that this one who doesn't need to be in any spot and he doesn't need to have any containment is in the vicinity of something that does need a containment. If we were to say that كان ذلك محالا, that would be impossible. It would be impossible that something that doesn't need any spot and it doesn't need any containment would be in the vicinity of something that needs a spot and needs containment. فإن التجاور والتباين من لوازم التحيز في المتحيزات. For indeed, vicinity and being separate is among the things that are binding to containment. وقد ثبت أن الاجتماع والافتراق من لوازم المتحيز. And it is confirmed that meeting, coming in contact, and separation, that these two are among what's dictated by being a contained thing. وَالْحَقُّ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى لَا يُوصَفُ بِالتَّحَيُّزِ. And the real God, exalted is he, is not described with containment. لأنه لو كان متحيزا لم يخلو إما أن يكون ساكنا في حيزه أو متحركا عنه. Because had he been something that moves, then it would not be escapable. It would then be a condition that he would either be still in his containment or moving from his containment Either he's still in his containment or moving away from his containment. وَمَا جَاوَرَ أَوْ بَايَنَ فَقَدْ تَنَاهَى ذَاتًا. And anything that has a vicinity and anything that's separate from something else, then its self has an end, an edge. وَالْمُتَنَاهِي إِذَا خُصَّ بِمِقْدَارٍ استدعى مخصصا. And the limited one, when he is specifically measured, when it is that he has a particular measure, then this requires a specifier. وَكَذَا يَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُقَالْ. And also it should be said, لَيْسَ بِدَاخِلٍ فِي الْعَالَمِ وَلَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِّنْهِ. God is not inside of the world, nor is he outside of it. لأنه الدخول لأن الدخول والخروج من لوازم المتحيزات. Because being inside or outside is among what's dictated by being a contained thing. وهما كالحركة والسكون. And those two, being inside and being outside, are like movement and stillness. وسائر الأعراض التي تختص بالأجرام. They are like movement and stillness and the other properties that are special to volumes, things that have volume. وَأَمَّا قَوْلُهُمْ خَلَقَ الْأَمَاكِنَ لَا فِي ذَاتِهِ. Now concerning those people saying that he created places not within himself, فَثَبَتَ انْفِصَالُهُ عَنْهَا. And so it's confirmed that he's outside of them. قُلْنَا, we respond, ذاته تعالى لا يقبل أن يخلق فيه شيء. God's self doesn't accept for something to be created within it. ولا أن يحل, because it doesn't have an inside. ولا أن يحل فيه شيء. Nor does God's self accept that something would dwell within him or within it. قال, Ibnul-Jawzi said, وقد حملهم الحس على التشبيه والتخليط. Literalism has made these people liken God to the creations and made them muddled. His means physical. So literally, the physical has made them fall into tashbih and confusion, into confusion. Physicalities have taken them to likening God to the creations and muddled confusions, mix-ups. حتى قال بعضهم, to the extent that one of them said, إنما ذكر الاستواء على العرش لأنه أقرب الموجودات إليه. He said God only mentioned his istiwa over the arsh because that's the closest of existing things to him. وهذا جهل أيضا. And this is also ignorance. لأن قرب المسافة لا يتصور إلا في حق الجسم. Because closeness of distance is not conceived but concerning a body. وقال بعضهم جهة العرش تحاذي ما يقابله من الذات. And some of them said the direction of the arsh, the ceiling of paradise, is parallel to ما يقابله من الذات. It's parallel to the self of God that's across from it. When I say across, I don't mean only horizontally across. I mean across in any direction. So now I'm across from my computer, and the table is 2. The table that's under it is across from it, but from a different direction. And the ceiling is across from it, and all the walls are across from it. So some said the direction of the Arsh is parallel to what is facing it, of the Arsh, of God's self. He's saying, some of them said, God, whatever part of him is facing the Arsh, then that part of him is parallel to the Arsh. All right, let me just translate. Let me back up a little bit, make sure everything's fresh here. So he said, وَقَدْ حَمَلَهُمُ الْحِسُّ عَلَى التَّشْبِيهِ وَالتَّخْلِيطِ. Physicalities, or physicalness, or literalism has taken them to God comparing and muddled confusion. حتى قال بعضهم, to the extent that one of them said, إنما ذكر الاستواء على العرش لأنه أقرب الموجودات إليه. God only mentioned the istiwa because it's the closest of things to him. So that's how they believe. Those are same people who would say God is not like the creations. وهذا جهل أيضا. This is also ignorance. لأن قرب المسافة لا يتصور إلا في حق الجسم. Because closeness of distance is only conceived concerning a body. وقال بعضهم جهة العرش تحاذي ما يقابله جهة العرش تحاذي ما يقابله من الذات. And some of them even said the direction of the Arsh is parallel to whatever it faces of God's self. What they're saying is they believe God is a body. So he's going to have an upper part and a lower part. And he's over the Arsh. So they're saying the Arsh is parallel to God's underside. That's what this statement means. That's what they believed. وَلَا تُحَاذِي جَمِيعَ الذَّاتِ. They said the Arsh is not parallel to all of God's self. فَهَذَا صَرِيحٌ فِي التَّجْسِيمِ. And this is explicit in bodifying God, in corporeality. وَالتَّبْعِيض. And this is explicit in making God someone who's made of pieces. وَيَعِزُّ عَلَيْنَا كَيْفَ يُنْسَبُ هَذَا الْقَائِلُ إِلَى مَذْهَبِنَا. And it's hard for us to believe how this speaker became affiliated with our madhab. وَاحْتَجَّ بَعْضُهُمْ بِأَنَّهُ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ بِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. And some of them have argued that he's over the Arsh because he said, إِلَيْهِ يَصْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ وَالْعَمَلُ الصَّالِحُ يَرْفَعُهُ. Literally translated would be, to him ascends the good words, and the righteous deed raises it. Now, what's that raises it and all of that? Right now we don't have to discuss that, but for them, the shahid, that means the reference, is here. إِلَيْهِ يَصْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ. To him ascend the good words. So that's what they use, some of them, as proof that God is over the Arsh. وَبِقَوْلِهِ. And they also argued that by what God said, وَهُوَ الْقَاهِرُ فَوْقَ عِبَادِهِ. He is the conqueror over his slaves. So the shahid, the reference for them is here. فَوْقَ عِبَادِهِ. Over his slaves. وَجَعَلُوا ذَلِكَ فَوْقِيَّةً حِسِّيَّةً. And they make that to be a physical over, a physical aboveness. That's their tunnel vision. وَنَسُوا أَنَّ الْفَوْقِيَّةَ الْحِسِّيَّةَ وَنَسُوا أَنَّ الْفَوْقِيَّةَ الْحِسِّيَّةَ إِنَّمَا تَكُونُ لِجِسْمٍ أَوْ جَوْهَرٍ. And they forgot that physical aboveness would only be for a body or a particle. وَأَنَّ الْفَوْقِيَّةَ قَدْ تُطْلَقُ لِعُلُوِّ الْمَرْتَبَةِ. And they forgot that aboveness could be used to refer to highness of status. فَيُقَالُ فُلَانٌ فَوْقَ فُلَانٍ. So it would be said, so-and-so is over so-and-so. So-and-so is over so-and-so. meaning superior to. Over meaning superior, because it has the meaning of status. ثُمَّ إِنَّهُ كَمَا قَالَ, and then furthermore, just as God said, فَوْقَ عِبَادِهِ, over his slaves. قَالَ, he also said, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ. If you translate that literally, it would say, he is with you. فَمَنْ حَمَلَهَا عَلَى الْعِلْمِ حَمَلَ خَصْمُهُ الْإِسْتِوَاءَ عَلَى الْقَهْرِ. So anytime one of those people says that this وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ, that looks like says he's with you, means knowledge, then the opponent of this one will insist then that the istiwa means dominance. If he says, no, you can't say it means dominance because that's taking it out of its apparent meaning, then we're going to say to him, then you can't say ma'akum, with you, means knowledge. Then you have to say he's with you wherever you are. But then you're going to contradict yourself, because if he's with you wherever you are, that means he's not over the arsh, because we're not over the arsh. For him to be with us wherever we are means he has to be under the arsh, because that's where we are. قال وذهبت طائفة إلى أن الله تعالى على عرشه وقد ملأه. And a group have even gone to the position that Allah Ta'ala is over his throne and he filled it up. وَالْأَشْبَهُ أَنَّهُ مُمَاثٌ لِلْعَرْشِ وَالْكُرْسِيُّ مَوْضِعُ قَدَمَيْهِ. They said, what's most likely is that God is touching the arsh and the kursi is where he puts his feet. Someone like that doesn't understand it. Yani, he's still going to say to you, Allah is not like the creations. He believes that Allah sits down on something and has feet, and then he puts his feet on something. And he's going to say to you, yes, laysa kamithlihi shay, nothing is like him. Qultu, Ibnul-Jawzi says, I say, al-mumassatu innama taqa'u bayna jismain. Touching only happens between two bodies. وَمَا أَبْقَى هَذَا فِي التَّجْسِيمِ بَقِيَّةٌ. And this is so much bodification of God that there's nothing left. There's no way left to bodify him more. Intaha kalam Ibnul-Jawzi. That's the end of the discourse of Ibnul-Jawzi. وَلَقَدْ أَجَادَ وَشَفَى وَكَفَى. And he did a great job, and what he said was sufficient. وقال الإمام المحدث الفقيه الشافعي أبو منصور البغدادي. The Imam and the Hadith scholar and the jurist, the Shafi'i jurist, Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi, the author of Al-Farq Bayn al-Firaq, الذي وصفه ابن حجر بأنه الإمام الكبير إمام أصحابنا. That same one that Ibn Hajar al-Haytami said about him, he is the big Imam, the Imam of our minor mujtahids, or lesser mujtahids, or junior mujtahids, the ones who are under a Shafi'i. He is their Imam, a Shafi'iyah, meaning he's an Imam of the Shafi'is. وَهُوَ مِنْ جُمْلَةِ مَشَايِخِ الْبَيْهَقِي. And he is one of Al-Bayhaqi's sheikhs. What did he say? وأجمع أصحابنا على إحالة القول بأنه في مكان. Our lesser mujtahids have agreed to the impossibility of saying that God is in a place. أو في كل مكان, or that he is in every place. ولم يجيزوا عليه مماسة ولا ملاقاه ولا ملاقاة بوجه من الوجوه. And they did not validate for God any contact nor any meeting in any way. ولكن اختلفت عباراتهم في ذلك. However, their phrases have differed about this. فقال أبو الحسن الأشعري إن الله عز وجل لا يجوز أن يقال إنه في مكان. And so Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari said, indeed, God, invincible and great, it is not valid that it be said that he is in a place. وَلَا يُقَالُ إِنَّهُ مُبَايِنٌ لِلْعَالَمِ. And it is not said that he is separated from the universe. وَلَا إِنَّهُ فِي جَوْفِ الْعَالَمِ, nor is it said that he is within the midst of the universe. لِأَنَّ قَوْلَنَا إِنَّهُ فِي الْعَالَمِ, because if we were to say that he's inside the universe, within the universe, يَقْتَضِي أَنْ يَكُونَ مَحْدُودًا مُتَنَاهِيًا, this would dictate that he's limited and has edges. وَقَوْلَنَا, and if we were to say إِنَّهُ مُبَايِنٌ لَهُ وَخَارِجٌ عَنْهُ, he is separated from the creation and outside of it, يَقْتَضِي أَنْ يَكُونَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الْعَالَمِ مَسَافَةٌ, then this would dictate that there would be between him and the universe a distance. وَالْمَسَافَةُ مَكَانٌ, and the distance itself is a place. Footnote says, so it became clear by the fact that distance itself is a place, the silliness of the minds, of the Wahhabi minds, where they said he is in a direction over the Arsh where there's no place. وَقَدْ أَطْلَقْنَا الْقَوْلَ بِأَنَّهُ غَيْرُ مُمَاثِلٍ لِمَكَانٍ, and we have already said that he is not touching a place. Intaha, end quote.